Welcome, everybody, to another amazing episode of our Wellness Warrior podcast. I'm Dr. Veronique Desonnier, better known as Dr. V. And today we have an amazing guest. I'm really excited for you to hear her story. This is Dr. Shelina Lodgley. She's the founder of Dr. Shel Wellness and Aesthetics Center, and she's served the medical and wellness needs of women and men in the greater Houston area for over 24 years. She's a board certified OBGYN with extensive experience in functional medicine, aesthetics, and alternative treatments. And I love this about Dr. Shel. She believes in the strong connection between the art of beauty and the science of wellness. And she's authored a book called I Am Woman, Our Journeys to Health, Happiness, and Harmony. She's a sought after international speaker and trainer. But what I really love about her is that she faced breast cancer head on and really dove into it. And she's an amazing breast cancer conqueror. She has such a beautiful story. So welcome, Dr. Shel, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. V. It's really great to be here. Thank you.
So let's start with the pain to passion. I mean, I know you're very passionate about health and wellness already, but then you had something happen to you in October of 2019 that really changed the course of your life in many ways.
Yes, absolutely. So, first of all, I'm enormously grateful to share that I'm one of the probably close to 19 million cancer thrivers out there in the United States, and much like you, this is something that it's something that we're grateful for, blessed for, and it turns out to be our greatest teacher. So for me, especially, I would say the last 4 years, because we're going to back it up just a little bit, because most of us are pain to passion story and our breast cancer journey doesn't necessarily start with the diagnosis. It starts a little bit before that. So I would say that the last 4 years have been really a tornado inside of a hurricane. I mean, if you can just imagine how graphic that looks, right? That's how I felt. So October 9th, 2019, I was diagnosed with invasive ductal carcinoma, grade 3 of my left breast, and had the surprising yet very important realization, like we all do, that I was not, in fact, indestructible, because we were living life as though we were. And yes. And it's just this realization that comes to you if you have been in the medical world and you have been practicing the science and the art of functional medicine and really focusing in on healthy eating and movement and exercise and meditation and yoga and nutrients, and you feel like, gosh, well, I'm doing everything that I can. So let me back that up by with this story for just a little bit, because it really began much before that. So what happened is, for me, I've always been this person who refused to accept that, someone else's limits were my reality. And, we push ourselves as women and as practitioners. And I was always the one who championed and overcame difficult things. Starting with when I was 20 years old, my oldest brother, 25 years of age, was shot and killed in front of my mother, which was extremely traumatic. And then when I was 29, my best friend committed suicide. And she was 29, an amazing woman who was literally like a soulmate for me. And then many other things happened that kind of pile on to this emotional trauma that, we just kind of say, okay, I'm plugging along. This is a mission. I'm going to help women with this and make sure they don't kill themselves. They don't get into depression and the darkness. And all of this just became this great big mission. And I was doing all of that, for years and years. And everything just came to a halting stop in November of 2017, when my wonderful husband, the love of my life, Ayaz, was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. And therein began our 4.5-year battle to overcome the word incurable. So ALS is known to be an incurable terminal disease, which the life expectancy is anywhere between 2 to 5 years. However, when we were at Mayo Clinic, I remember this so distinctly. when we were at Mayo Clinic back in November of 17, Ayaz was given 6 to 9 months to live because he was one of the most rapid progressors that Mayo had ever seen. And so, the first thing that goes wrong when someone says a disease is incurable is that most of us stop looking for a cure because we're simply expected to accept that fate. Ayaz and I and our family decided that that was not okay with us. And we sort of started thinking, oh, well, we know why this was given to our family, not just like pounced on our family, but given to our family because Ayaz is, a warrior spirit, strongest man I know. And I was in functional medicine and I knew that day this light bulb went off. Well, that's why God wanted me to go into functional medicine from traditional OBGYN. And I thought, okay, well, this is it. All the pieces are, coming together and I have to just get on that horse and help to find a cure and save his life. And, my husband is one of 30,000 people in the United States navigating ALS today as we speak. And then you ask yourself, why are we accepting an illness as incurable in 2021? We're not supposed to do this. Nothing's supposed to be incurable. Cancer, not incurable. We cannot expect that because our bodies, and you and I talk about this all the time, our bodies are a magical thing. And it is really literally designed in the roadmap of our DNA to heal itself if it's given everything that it needs. So truly, disease is an anomaly. It is like an external villain that is seeking to interrupt this natural function of our bodies, which is to heal. So therein, we started saying, why can't we find a cure for ALS or cancer? And the truth is we can, and we will. We will, I believe that very strongly, we will. But what happened is I started working on it and not thinking about any of my principles that I had taught my patients, written my book about, did my podcasts about, for women and men alike to care for themselves first and foremost. And that just went out the window because I thought, well, I have to save his life. It doesn't matter what it takes. I have to. And then once I save his life, then I will take care of myself, right?
Right.
So then years of no sleep, like literally 3 to 4 hours of sleep, if that, consulting with hundreds of consultants all over the world, joining research teams at Mass General, looking at thousands of papers, trying to do cutting edge therapies on my husband, traveling the world, all of that began. And it just kept going. And he progressed because his decline was really steep. And then we were able to stop that progression, which I was like, oh gosh, wow. We are still here by the grace of God, 4.5 years into our journey when we were given 6 months, 6 to 9 months. And so
Beautiful.
Certainly we feel blessed. We feel so grateful, but all of that, does leave a toll on the person who's driving this, which at that time and now is yours truly. And, when you have a spouse who is all of a sudden, he was an incredibly active 51-year-old, a dentist, an entrepreneur, just an amazing man. Our kids were only 13 and 16 at the time. So if you can think about this, Dr. V, when your kids are that age, you just want to protect them from going into a deep darkness of depression. And what was amazing is they sort of went and took the tragedy to transformation journey with us. Wonderful. And in fact, my daughter Zoe, when she did a TEDx talk about ALS, actually said, and I love quoting this because this came from a young lady who was 18 at the time, not even 18 at the time. And she said that true courage is not denying the cards that you've been dealt. It's knowing that you can still win a game, even with a bad hand. And yes, it seemed like when you think about that, every one of us that are dealing with cancer in our lives, right? Sometimes, there are always times that we're always going to have that low moment and we'll ask ourselves or ask the universe or God or whoever you believe in, why was I dealt this bad hand? And it's not really about that, right? I mean, once we kind of cross over that darkness, it's about we can still win this hand. Even if it's a bad hand, we can still win it. And we have been given and granted the tools. You know, I mean, your podcast, for example, has helped thousands of people. You know, I must say, and I've said this to you before, and I want to, you know, re-express my gratitude to you. You were one of the first people that I reached out to, and we had never personally met, but we know a lot of people in common. And you were so gracious. And, you know, we talked about the things that you had done for your journey. And it was really amazing to have a like-minded soul to share that information with. So we've all some at some points in our lives, and me included, felt like ALS was a bad hand, cancer was a bad hand. But yet, you know, I think we're all committed to try to win this hand. And I think if we work together, we can. So, you know, along the journey, when I thought I was going to be a champion for IAs, right? And I was going to keep moving and reaching for the cure, or at least stop the progression, with my children being, you know, people that I was really, really concerned about, and then doing caregiving 24/7, you know, a day, it was really, really difficult because in ALS, you lose every single motor function, including your ability to walk, to talk, to move, to eat, to swallow, down to the ability to breathe. And when you have a loved one who is in that situation, it's very difficult to say, oh, well, I really need to, you know, sleep my 9 hours a day or 8 hours a day. And I really want to go to get my acupuncture and get my massages. And so for the first 2 years, there was none of that. Zero, zilch, negative, you know. And then one fine day, I was just sitting in one of my meditations, and Dr. V, I remember this like it was yesterday. I'm sitting in one of my meditations because that's the only thing I could do to just reduce my cortisol level, is just sit down, even if it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And I just felt like my body was saying something to me. My body was trying to communicate with me and tell me to just pause and listen, because something is not right. And it was like, it was trying to give me this message really loud and clear. And I had to get silent to hear it, because perhaps it was trying to tell me for months before, and I just could not hear it. So at that time, I just knew something was going on. And even amidst all the craziness, I scheduled a mammogram and I went to get it done. And I remember I was in the dressing room with my little flimsy robe, and there's a mirror, you know, before you go out into the imaging room. And I just looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know, I just spoke to God and the universe, and I just prayed that for all the women who were going to get bad news, right? And I said, you know, I know I feel something's wrong, but, you know, God, just be with me, whatever it is, just be with me. And, you know, then I got the imaging done, went on my way. I was in the carpool line picking up my son, and I get a phone call from my buddy who's the radiologist. And he said, Shel, you need to come on back. I need to do an ultrasound, take a look, you know. And I'm like, it's a really busy week. I'll come back next week. He goes, no. You don't understand. I need you to come back today.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So, you know, that same day at like 4:30, I'm back in his radiology facility. And yeah, I mean, you know, so a day later we got the results, and yes, it was invasive ductal carcinoma. And I wasn't surprised. You know, I just wasn't. It wasn't like I was in shock, or I was like, oh my God, how could this happen? I just wasn't surprised, because I know, being a functional medicine physician, I know what stress does to your body. I know what emotional trauma does to your body. I know when unresolved emotions get caught in our bodies. I know when you're not doing all the right things, like sleeping, resting, moving, eating healthy. It's just, you're giving cancer a beautiful place to implant itself, right?
Mhm.
And I thought to myself, you know, this is going to be my biggest wake up call I've ever had. And it was. And it woke me up, and it turned out to be my greatest gift.
That's beautiful. And we hear that a lot from women. I think we innately know that, our life is not in balance. Our bodies are not in balance. We know something is off. And,
Yeah.
that's how I felt, both times. And recognizing that I allowed this to show up again. I created the perfect storm for cancer to show up.
Yes.
So, that's why you said it's so important to be still so we can really listen to what our body is telling us.
Yes.
So there's some things that you did along your journey to really, help reverse that trend and to really create that vibrant health in your body. So what are some of the integrative protocols that you did for yourself? And I know you teach a lot of this to your patients. So what did you do for yourself?
So, the first thing I did is once I got the diagnosis, I began a similar research protocol that I did for when my husband got diagnosed with ALS. I looked at everything, whether it be on the traditional side or the science-based, natural side. And I looked at it all. I spoke to people, experts like you. I spoke to integrative oncologists. I spoke to traditional oncologists, and really just got a lot of information, excellent information. Because I always say that to, everybody, what's best for you. Intuitively, what's best for you. Some people go all the way traditional, others go all the way natural, and then others go integrative. And everything is good. Everything's good. Whatever's good for you is perfect for you, as long as you're true to yourself and you really listen to your intuition. So that's what I did. And I decided, and it was an interesting, decision, because coming from a field of functional medicine, my natural instinct was I'm going to go all science, evidence-based natural. That was my intuition at that time. And then what happened is I had to think about, just kept on coming to me, best of both worlds. You got to do best of both worlds, best of both worlds. And I had to listen to that, especially because we did not know what the future held for my husband. My kids were young. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to dive in and do everything, all the best that traditional has to offer, all the best that, natural treatments have to offer, and combine it. So I did a lot of things where I, started looking at my different things that really looked at my cancer terrain in my body to check my inflammatory realm that's going on in my body. I checked nutritional deficiencies. I checked my cortisol levels. I checked my gut microbiome. I got all the different baseline that I needed, because I needed to know what invited this cancer to my body, right? I checked my neurotransmitters. I checked a lot of the tests that you and I, have even spoken about, where we're looking at the circulating tumor cells, where we're looking at what your particular tumor will respond to, whether it's nutrients, whether it's different kinds of chemotherapies, whether it's radiation, heat, etc. So I did that. I went ahead and did have a lumpectomy in my left breast. And then I scheduled myself out for my chemo as well as my radiation. But I knew I could not afford to get sick during those treatments, because I was still a 24/7 caregiver for my husband and my children. And, I was running my practice and his dental practices. Honestly, there was like no time in my life for cancer.
No.
No time. Right. And much like a lot of us women that are just like, oh, can we just like jump over this little hump here? And truly it worked, because I feel, when I think back 2 years ago, because all my treatment started in December of 2019, and then I finished my radiation in May of 2020. For those 6 months, you would think that, I would have been exhausted and sick, and I wasn't. I really wasn't. And I just shaved off my head, and I just loved being bald for a while. I could swim and not worry about my hair. It was like, just take a look at all the great things in life, right? So I did that for myself. And it was really important for me to really start doing whatever I was doing in a very systematic approach. So when I looked at my circulating tumor cells, I was at 19, which is pretty high. And I was like, okay, we got to do what we need to do to bring this down to a good little 0, right? So first I was thinking, okay, let's think about what kind of toxins do I have that I'm surrounded by, right? So I've got to detoxify. Now with the detoxification, I always talk about detoxify not just your body, but also your mind and your spirit. So of course I detoxified my gut. I did infrared saunas. I did, foot detox. I did detoxifying IVs. I made sure all of my products inside my house, and we'd already done that because, when we were struck with ALS, our Wi-Fi would turn off, for at least 12 hours a day. We just detoxified the whole house and the products and everything. So that was one where just get rid of all the bad stuff, right? Then I looked at my gut and I had objective data because I love looking at the microbiome and look for leaky gut and dysbiosis and things of that nature. And I started rebuilding my gut. So once I did the microbiome analysis, I got myself on our gut repair protocol, reducing the inflammation, removing all foods that might be inflammatory, of course, and putting healing foods and nutrients and really awesome organic veggies and things of that nature back in. I then looked at my nutritional balance, which again, I did objective findings with that. There's a test that I love by Genova, and I looked at, my vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, organic acids, and I started balancing that with some great antioxidants and vitamins and minerals and things of that nature. So I did that balancing and I started doing IV vitamin C. And you have to be careful. So I want to kind of, a caveat there is definitely if you're going to do chemo, you need to work with your oncologist at the timing where you can do high dose IV vitamin C, because you also want to be, supportive and integrative and not, work against what your body's trying to do with the other things. So I did that, made sure my thyroid was optimized, made sure that my metabolism of my hormones, especially my estrogen, progesterone metabolism was happening, but with things like diindole methane and, cruciferous vegetables and reducing the carcinogenic metabolites, because that's very important. I knew my stress was incredibly, incredibly high. So I checked my salivary cortisol levels, and I treated that by, trying to reduce my cortisol by using certain nutrients that actually bring it down. Certain natural thing. One of my favorite is cortisol manager that actually brings it down. It ties it up, and then phosphatidylserine and other things like that to bring that down. And then for me to not continually have elevated cortisol, I really started myself in a very mind-body healing program, which included healing of the traumas. So I did some really amazing sessions to work on the trauma that was there. And there's fear when you feel like you're going to lose somebody that you have built a life with. There's fear, and you don't recognize that fear sometimes, and you almost don't have the time to pause and focus on that fear. And so I took the time to accept. It's radical acceptance of where we are. We are where my husband has a terminal disease, which we are trying to find a cure for. I had to radically accept that instead of being on this journey of fight. So I no longer say, let's keep fighting for a cure. I don't say that. Yeah. It's not a positive word. Right. It's a negative word, Okay. We have to accept where we are, and we just have to surrender, but yet do everything we can in a very positive light.
Embrace it. Yeah.
Embrace it. Absolutely. Embrace it. And so the meditation became a ritual. My sleep became protected. 8 to 9 hours, no questions asked. I had to hire a nighttime caregiver because I was like, there's just no way. There's no way I can wake up every hour to 2 hours to take care of him. So there's got to be a nighttime caregiver. I have to go sleep somewhere else. And it just became this process where I had to protect my health and well-being like there was no other choice. And, this is what I tell my patients and family and friends, and I'm sure you also do the same, Dr. V. And this works. If you're a mother, oh my gosh, this works. Do for yourself what you would do for your child if they were in this situation. The bar is like super high then.
Right.
You don't cut any corners then. You really don't, because you wouldn't cut any corners for your child. And so when you start thinking of yourself, of your inner child, because I started doing that. This is my inner child that is struggling and suffering. And the terrain in my body was inviting this cancer. And I've got to change that. Because if I don't, not only am I hurting my loved ones, I won't be here to take care of them. And that's not acceptable. And so it really was this, it's almost like a card. I got this gift card from God, that said, here you go. This is your permission slip to now focus on you. And that's why I call cancer my biggest gift, is because I got the permission to do what I always knew I should, but I never gave myself that space, right? So yoga happened, exercise happened, sleep happened, meditation happened. I had my little boxes of my supplements like an old lady, love it. Love those boxes, made those boxes, took my supplements, I just made sure that I took care of myself the way I took care of my husband when he was diagnosed.
Wow, what a journey. Yeah. Now you started off, you mentioned that your circulating tumor cells were at 19, which is incredibly high. Yes. So where are you today on your healing journey?
I'm so glad you asked. So I've done my CTC with a couple of different labs, but I keep doing it with one same lab because I want, consistency. So I was 19 before my surgery. Then I was 12 after my surgery. Then after chemo, I was at a 7. And all during this, like you and I said, all the natural treatments were started the day I got diagnosed, right? So it was a combination of everything I was doing. So I'm at a 0 now, Dr. V.
That is fabulous. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
So exciting. So exciting.
Thank you. So that 0, it took me about, I would say from October to July of 2020 to get from 19 to 0.
Wow. That's incredible. That's huge, because that's a high number.
Yes.
Let me back up a little bit. I have a question for you. Sure. So you mentioned integrating chemotherapy with, high dose vitamin C infusion. So in your opinion, how should women space that kind of therapy?
That's a great question. And I think it really is dependent on which chemo agent is being used, right? Because it depends on the half-life. It depends on where your oncologist is, because I always really feel strongly that we in functional, integrative, and natural medicine have to communicate with the oncologist. And it's really exciting because I sought out my care at MD Anderson, which is, as you know, a world-renowned center. And what's interesting is I was pleased that when I started going there, they actually have an integrative cancer department in which they have acupuncture, massage, CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and other things. And so I was able to have this very open discussion with my oncologist, who's very open-minded. And I said, look, I am going to do these things, okay? But I would like to collaborate with you to do this. And so in your opinion, at which point should I be doing it? So my chemos were about 3 weeks apart. And so I would do my IV vitamin C, I would wait at least about 72 to 96 hours, and then I would do it. And then I would do my, do about a week of that. And then I would give it another gap before my next chemo. So that's how we did it, but it's all sort of customized, and it's not a one size fits all. Of course, you know that, right? And it really depends. And I would urge anybody out there who's doing it, that there are some incredible integrative oncologists out there that do this stuff every day, right? And they know about all the different chemo agents and things of that nature. Also, what's really important, for me, what was really important is, and I think that, the universe and God was just good to me, and, it was a blessing, when I did a test called RGCC, and you know about that test, the Greek test, when I did it for myself, it was because I wanted to see if my cancer cells were going to be receptive and responsive to the particular agents that they were recommending for me, right, for my cancer. And so with some of these tests, and and you don't have to do them, I'm just giving the audience sort of what I did, because I'm very evidence-based, and I looked to see, and when I looked at the results, my particular cancer cells was very responsive to heat, i.e. radiation. My cancer cells were very responsive to the two agents that were picked for me. And I was like, golden,
confirmation. Yeah,
yes,
confirmation. That's great.
Yes. And so to me, it was just like, the universe just aligned and supported me in what my decision was. And it just made me a little bit more comfortable to have this confirmation. So I think it just kind of brings us back to, there's so many wonderful tools now, right? No one tool is 100%, or 0%, sometimes we have to combine the different tools. But I do, as a provider, as a functional medicine provider, I really do believe in looking to see what's going on in my patients' bodies, right? What brought this cancer into your body, right? Because we all have cancer cells, every single one of us, but it is something that happens in our body that allows them to then replicate, grow, and actually become tumors. And so I think, again, it just brings me back to, it's very important to look at the root cause. And each one of us has unique root causes of why our bodies became diseased. And I did a lot of work on this in my ALS, time period, and I still continue to do it. In fact, I'm on many different panels about, curing ALS, preventing ALS, and what goes into the different types of neurodegenerative diseases, because even for all of those conditions, Parkinson's, ALS, MS, there's not one cause. It's a multitude of causes. And I'm so happy that the traditional world now is looking at the gut microbiome for everything, for all the disease processes. They're looking at nutritional deficiencies. They're looking at oxidative stress. They're looking at mitochondrial dysfunction. They're looking at organic acids. And that's just music to your and my ears, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Shel, you have a free gift for our listeners.
Yes.
It's a free detox and immunity challenge. And so we'll post that link when we post the podcast. And where can people find you if they want to know more about your story?
Oh, absolutely. So my practice is in Houston, Texas. The website is drshel.com. It's drshel.com. And to get access to some of the programs and a little bit more on my cancer journey and the podcasts, they can go to drshelinstitute.com, where they can get access to the different courses and such. And this is, like I say, I shaved my head off, right? So this is all new hair in the last year. So I had done this, created this course about getting your hair back naturally. And a lot of my cancer patients who've also gone through a similar journey, they're able to, because for us women especially, it's really nice to have our little hair back,
Right.
But the Detox and Immunity Challenge was a really fun one. And I'd like to offer it to your listeners at no cost, because it's really something that I did to help promote just health and well-being, especially in these times of, the pandemic. You want to make sure that your life is not filled with toxins, whether it's physical, mental, or emotional, and how to really build a robust immune system so that we can stay healthy and fight off cancer and other such diseases.
That's right. That is so key.
Yes.
So thank you so much for your time, Dr. Shel. I love your story, and you are a true wellness warrior for sure. So
thank you. Thank you. It's so good to have you. And thank you, Dr. V, for all that amazing work that you do. Really, I'm super grateful.
Very welcome. So this is Dr. V sending you a big healing heart hug. Till next time. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.